Hi you guys. In sharing about 3 courses here, I'm just lumping them all into one video, and the reason for that is I really don't have a lot to say about these courses. Your neurology, neuropathology course, which is primarily from Dr. Cole, your preventative medicine course, which is primarily from Dr. Chila, and your psychopathology course from Dr. Bolton. You've had all these lectures before, and you've got a pretty good idea of what they're doing. What I have included here is just a couple ideas of some sources that you could augment with, and I will kind of give a brief synopsis of what I thought was worthwhile in these courses. So start with neurology up here. Yeah, do what you did first year. If you didn't find something that worked first year, you might have to dig a little deeper for a plan. I think it's really good to compare and contrast. For example, if I go, here's some drawings that I made. Oh, that's upside down. During the beginning of the course. So you're going to do inflammatory diseases of muscle. And I just started like making tables. And they got kind of busy. Dermatomyositis, polymyositis, inclusion body myositis. All the names sound similar. These are the kind of diseases you need to be able to carve out, and so I just made some tables like treatment on this side, distinguishing features, lab features, clinical features, pathogenesis. I got a little bit too in-depth, but the thing is, that's going to happen to you sometimes, and when it does, when you write more than you should and more than you can possibly study well right before the test, I just would go back through with a certain color of pen and mark, okay, these are the boxes that are definitely worth a question. Like, for instance, you might see that there's a big distinction made between these two in terms of their clinical features, and between these two in terms of their treatment, Whoops, trying to make a box for you there. Between those two in terms of their treatment. And so those are, you can, if you organize your information in this way for starting with muscle diseases, that's the first stuff you're going to do, you'll be able to pick out the questions pretty well and have these to go back to. I've ended up scanning a lot of my stuff. These are the neuromuscular junction diseases. I've got different categories over here: clinical, presentation, diagnostic studies, and each of the 3 main neuromuscular junction diseases. And that just allows me to compare them and come back to them fast. So I will say that was probably helpful, and I just scanned them so I can carry them with me on my iPad in the wards. Gotta flip that one right side up. And then when it comes to neurology and getting ready for boards for neurology, I would just say I really promote trusting Dr. Cole on it, because it worked so well for me. A lot of people, there was a lot of talk going around how Dr. Cole's review that he gave us, and he even gave us a video that totaled about 4 hours of like a fairly exhaustive neurology review. And some people said, oh, it's not enough, so they did it once and then tried to get to a lot of other sources. I did Dr. Cole's thing like 4 times before the mock board, and I think I got in the 95th percentile on the mock board. And then I did Dr. Cole's thing a couple more times before step 1, and it's just Dr. Cole gives good reviews, and I think it's an amount of information that's possible to know quite well if you focus on doing your repetitions in that amount of information. And I don't know where else to get such high yield information, especially considering that Dr. Cole has designed your perspective on neurology. I would think he'd be the best one to review you on it as well. But that's just my opinion. A lot of people did it a lot of different ways. Yeah, but I thought Dr. Cole's stuff was really good. I'd maybe read it one time. I've talked about this before, but like interacting with the same information several times. So maybe I'd break it up into sections and I'd read it, and then maybe I'd read the next section, and then I'd come back to the first section, and then I'd make flashcards of it, and then go to the next section. And well, anyway, you can divide up your laps however you want, but by the end, hopefully you've read it, you've made flashcard of it, you've quizzed with a friend on the same information, You've done your flashcards again. Making your flashcards is probably, I think making your flashcards is a better repetition than redoing flashcards. Probably it would pay off to never redo flashcards and only make them again every time you go through. But since you want to be fast, doing a deck of flashcards pays off a lot. So anyway, I just encourage you to pick a manageable amount of information and see that information as much as you can when it comes to reviewing for neurology. Dr. Cole really focuses on the neurology side of neurology as a neurologist would. There's a little bit of neuropathology like that you'll have in other lectures about pathology, and that's a little bit hard to know how solid you are on, because it's kind of a ill-defined set of, well, what do they want me to know about this? So I don't know. I thought pathoma might be a good place to augment that a little bit, and there's a few lectures like by an Indian doctor that you're gonna have that were pretty decent on neuropathology, and like what kind of inclusion body are you gonna see in a cell in this disease, and which diseases have Lewy bodies and that kind of thing. The pathologic features aren't really Dr. Cole's strong points, because who would really want to know those kind of things unless you wanted to get questions right on a board test? So that's all I'm going to say about neurology. Preventive medicine, you've already had Dr. Chelam, you had her do your epidemiologic math. That stuff is important. If you haven't, I really recommend like synthesizing it for yourself, writing problems. Like, you should be able to write a course on this stuff because it's super high yield. Being able to do sensitivity and specificity and positive predictive value and negative predictive value and likelihood ratios, all this stuff it's painted all over step one. And so you want to know it really solid. And if that's working out for you based on what you saw in first year, then review it hard and you'll be ready again. If you're still working for somebody to kind of help you get a basis in it, I thought that DIT came in at a pretty elementary level. Like, sometimes you think of a review course as being just only something that's useful if you've already seen it, but DIT stuff, they call it medicine and society rather than epidemiology or whatever. It's their medicine and society lectures. I thought they were probably a better introductory course, and Dr. Chelam's class might be more like a review because she goes so fast and just hits high points. So I'll just show you, like, I think I benefited. I kept, this is the 2012 DIT. I don't know where I got it, but I have it, and I'm sure you can find it. And I kept this on my desktop, and you can see right here, if I open up the workbook that they give you, here's a lecture list. Print this. I printed it at spring break, and I wished I would have printed it at the beginning of the year. It's pretty much anywhere. It's so easy to navigate. Like, these are all the topics, and what I would do is go through with a pen and make like all of your embryology green and all of your neurology orange, so that you can real quick find your neurology lectures on this. Because if you can find this, I mean, you're like 1 minute away from somebody who's going to tell you what's on step one for this test, so for this topic. So for instance, medicine society, you can see right here, here's your statistical tests. This is what I was just talking about, and so I can see it's P. It's just this. Then you just play Battleship for a second. It's in P, and it's column 1. So I'm looking for P1, and I'm just going to buzz out of here, back to my DIT, find the P folder. This is how they organize. Like I said, I have the 2012. Here's P1, and here you go. Here's a lecture on these statistical tests. I guess maybe my computer, I'm using QuickTime to record this, so maybe it can't do double time in QuickTime, I'm not sure. But I recommend those videos a lot as a way to augment. So I will go on. Here we go. I open it in VLC just to kind of show you. She's kind of hot anyway. Looks like I was listening to somebody who talked slower than her before.
So how do you make them high quality and reliable?
So here you go. She talks double speed all by herself.
Controlled means that there's
anyway, I would check her
not
out.
only an experimental group.
And let's see. I'm just closing some of these. Don't need that. I don't need that either. I'm sorry. Okay, and then back to this. Yeah, consider augmenting with DIT, and that goes with anything. Like if you print that table of DIT lectures, you can quickly get to pretty solid stuff about any topic. And I didn't end up, like I said up here, it was trust Dr. Cole for neurology. I didn't do any DIT neurology, and you'll also hear me say trust Dr. Warner for cardiovascular stuff. I didn't do any DIT cardiovascular stuff. Those were huge topics, so I basically what that ended me up doing is I did the first half of DIT twice, and I never really did the bulk of the second half. I just picked and chose, but the bulk of the second half is neurology and cardiology, and I trust Dr. Cole and Dr. Warner on those topics, and it definitely worked for me. So yeah, for what that's worth. Now here's psychopathology. Psychopathology feels, to me it felt a lot like the first year course, just I guess a little bit harder, but not way harder. It's just you can't blow it off like maybe, I guess a lot of people got away with blowing off the first year course. I treat the easy courses to the best of my ability. I treat them just like the hard courses and do the same amount of reps on them. And so like, which is good because I think I've probably honored all the easy courses at Loma Linda, which is good for your GPA. You know, I don't know if your GPA really matters, but I study lots for even these easy courses. Doesn't mean it takes me very long to get through the lecture, but I'm still doing all my repetitions, you know. And so I'd say do what works for you in the behavior science class, and consider augmenting with the following books. And the reason for these is they're questions. The BRS Behavioral Science, this FATEM name, if FATEM is part of it, it's probably a good source for psychopathology. This has really good questions in the end of the chapter. If you're just going to get one book, I'd get that book. And then another one you could consider if you already have it, or if you want another book, is High Yield Behavioral Science. And that one, the questions are not all at the end of the chapter, but they have this cool icon and patient snapshot. So if you're using a PDF, you can just search patient snapshot and it'll take you to these vignettes. And they're really good vignettes. And then at the end of the chapter are the answers for those vignettes. So here's 2-3, that's the answer to this vignette. And this I found at the end of the chapter and screen clipped it, and these are all mid-chapter. But the point is, Barbara Fadum, who is part of both of these books, she has the board's questions on these topics pretty well dialed in, kind of like Dr. Sitar does for pathology, and I feel like Dr. Cole does for neurology. Sometimes you meet a teacher who kind of has the boards dialed in, and that's her for these topics. So I recommend those. I guess that's all I have to say about neurology, Prevmed, and psychopathology. Good luck.